Did you know only 6% of people are getting enough fiber? That's why Quaker created Fiber February, a month-long movement to show your gut a little more love. It's like dry January, only easier and more delicious. Quaker has over 100 delicious options that are a good source of fiber. So go buy Quaker Oats today and join the Fiber February movement for a healthy gut.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Walmart Business is in the business of saving you time, money, and hassle. Whether your business started in a garage or is a garage, Walmart Business has the tools to help you get where you're going. Tools like free shipping, multi-user accounts, and just about any item your company needs.
Even a double filtration cyclone dust collector.
Yep, even that.
Sweet.
Walmart Business. It's the Walmart you love. Now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com. Terms apply.
Wow.
So when you think about that, a college athlete not wanting to let her parents down, imagine that 8-year-old who's thinking that same thing. I just don't want to let my parent down. And that's one of the biggest weights that they're bearing right now. So we just have to do a better job of understanding what we're doing to make that weight heavier, what we're doing to put more pressure, and what we're doing to just maybe not allow them to grow and develop because now they're just fearful of all of it.
I'm Jessica Vallant. I'm a physical therapist, women's health expert, and Pilates teacher, and my goal is to help all women feel strong, safe, and secure in their bodies. In this podcast, I'll share expert advice, facts, amazing guests, stories, compassion, and hope to help you meet your body in all seasons of life. You guys, buckle up for an amazing conversation. We just got done recording, and I am percolating and sitting with everything that our guests talked about today. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context. As you guys know, I am a parent to a 2nd grade boy, 7th grade girl, both of whom play sports. And if you are in that world at all, you know it can feel like a lot. It can feel like a lot right now on choosing the right teams, when to get them started, whether to do competitive or rec. I mean, there's so many choices, and it can feel like a lot of pressure as a parent to make the right ones. And recently, I found Garry Linton's Instagram, and the messages he had there felt like a breath of fresh air for parents, for coaches, for caregivers, for anyone with a young person in their life involved in sports. And being a physical therapist and also seeing some of the injuries kids are going through now, I knew we needed to bring this conversation to you so that you can really have some guidance when it comes to how to either parent or mentor a young person in your life wanting to get involved with youth sports. So let me tell you a little bit about Garry. Garry Linton is a father of 3, a speaker, mentor, and one of the most uncompromising voices in youth sports reform. Over 2 decades, he's held every role that matters, including coach, trainer, AAU program director, and parent of a Division I full scholarship athlete. He's guided dozens of young athletes to college programs at every level and built championship athletes along the way. He was winning by every measure the system values. Then he realized the system was broken. Now Garry is dismantling the incentive structures that exploit children and rebuilding youth sports around what it was always meant to be, a place for growth, joy, resilience, and becoming. not just performing. He's not here to fix the game. He's here to reform it. And if that doesn't get you excited for this conversation, I don't know what will. So again, whether you have kids in sports or just kids in general that you want to help guide in the best way possible, whether you're a grandparent, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a sister, again, you just want to help mentor young kids in your life, this episode is a must listen. I truly feel so honored that I was able to be a part of it, and I'm excited to bring it to you today. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Garry Linton. So you guys heard my introduction. You know a little bit about Garry, but Garry, thank you so much for being here. You know, I've already told you personally, I'm so excited to have this chat, and I know it's going to be so important for so many of our listeners. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the conversation, a much needed conversation, I think.
Absolutely. So needed. So tell us, like I said, in the intro, I gave just a really high level, but I would
Mhm.
love for you to tell everyone just your story, whatever part of it you want us to know. Where are you in the world and what brought you into this place professionally and personally that you want to spread this message?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think for the most part, I started out very much just a just a regular parent. I mean, I've always been involved with the basketball. I'm a basketball person
Okay.
at heart, so I've always done that. But growing, or I should say, parenting three children, I had the opportunity to be involved in all sports, and it was very actually going through it was kind of discouraging at the very early stages, but I went through every stage that probably every parent listening has gone through. And now I've just reached that point where it's like, okay, I did all of those things wrong, and I
Hmm.
could have done them much better. So they say hindsight is 20/20, and I'm hoping that my hindsight is somebody's foresight. So
Right.
yeah.
That's amazing. And do you find that you are speaking more to parents at this point, to the kids and the athletes who are playing, to their relationship together, to coaches? I would love to hear kind of that whole dynamic if you find people are
Yeah.
working together and on the same page, or if you find a lot of, those expectations are on different pages and you're trying to bring people together.
Yeah, so a quick story. I was in the basketball world, even as my daughter was going through it. By trade, I was a basketball trainer.
Okay.
Even as I was going through all of the different sports. My kids played soccer, baseball, softball, you name it, they played it. But I was also a trainer by trade. So
Okay.
in the very early stages, I was working with kids on a daily basis, and by that mark, I was also working with their parents. And for the most part, when I started, it was really just helping the kids, like helping them learn basketball.
Mm,
I had a life changing moment with one of the kids in terms of their mental health, and at that moment, it kinda clicked. It was like, "Wait a second. I'm not here to teach basketball. I'm here to help them through this." So
mm,
at that point, it was bigger than life. And as I kinda grew, I realized that it was youth sports was a big problem that kind of needed to be fixed. And it wasn't until recently that I just decided I'm going to take on this Goliath,
yeah.
and really try to see what I can change within it. So,
Yep. And
to
I
answer to
do
answer
it.
your
Yeah.
question, I am talking to parents, I'm talking to kids, and I'm talking to the directors, organizations,
Yep.
all of them, just trying to make youth sports a better place. That's all.
Yeah. I would love to know, because I've kind of talked to you about this, but for anyone listening, I'm 47 years old. I have a 12-year-old daughter, so she's seventh grade. I have an
Mhm.
8-year-old son. He's in second grade. He's into soccer. She plays volleyball. She does aerial sports. She loves flag football. She's a receiver, like all so we are in it. And talking to my friends with kids the same age, all of us talk about how stressful it is to be a parent and to know how to manage this sports thing.
Yeah.
Because and my husband played basketball in college. He's a basketball guy too. So, and I played soccer. We're both very sports people, but being Gen Xers, it felt very different. I mean, my
Yeah.
memories are playing rec soccer, playing middle school softball, and just whatever team was available. I played high school soccer. It did not take over my life. I was able to do whatever other activities I wanted. And now it feels already for my 8-year-old, I feel like if I'm not getting him into competitive now, I might
Yeah.
be just making him lose his chance to play
Absolutely.
whatever it is. And that feels insane to me.
Yeah.
Not to mention, as a physical therapist, knowing that's not right for his body. And yet that's the pressure we feel. So I
Mhm.
would love to know, like, what do you, at a really high level, it might be a big question, but what has kind of changed in that time since when we were kids playing to now? Like, what is that difference that we're all feeling?
I think it's there's a couple of reasons for that. But I think for the most part, as adults, we fell in love with, said sport, whether that be baseball, basketball, whatever it is. There was a sense of community that we found love in as we were growing up. And I think when we become parents, we want to kind of recreate that.
Mm,
We want our kids to be involved with that. And then as soon as we get involved with it, it's kind of, a rat race of, hey, he or she does have some skill. Let's see if we can kind of build on that.
mm,
So it's a bunch of things that we have kind of taken further than we need to in order for the kids to be involved with this sports. And I think I've said it before, but most of the things that are happening in youth sports are adult driven, opposed
mm.
to bringing it back to the kids.
I would love for you to actually expand on that a little bit. That
Sure.
is really interesting because I know, and I think I heard you say this a few minutes ago, and I can see it in my husband as well. He played, like I said, his whole life competitive. I mean, that was his life, and he was kind of put in that role. And
Yeah.
as a dad now, he really he'll be there to help our kids in whatever way they ask and want,
Mhm.
but on the sidelines, he's very, backseat. He's very quiet. He's not,
Yeah.
putting himself out there, and I think that's I wonder sometimes if that's purposeful with how he grew up and wanting to be a little different from what he heard from the sideline. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what do parents tend to do, or what do you see happening that is a detriment to the kids?
Where do I start?
Everything.
Yeah, no, there's a lot, and I think that for the most part, the grand scheme of things is that I think many times we try to project onto our kids what took us 30 years to learn.
Mm,
So whatever that may be, we try to teach our kids that and expect them to know it or learn it just like that.
mm,
So when it comes to sports, there's a lot of things that happen, whether it's, learning to dribble the soccer ball or learning to dribble the basketball or learning to hit the baseball. There's certain techniques and things that we had to learn over time. And who knows how long that took each of us to do individually. But then when we look at our kids doing it and it seems something that's so simple, we want to project that onto them as if they had that same opportunity to learn it. And so I think that's one of the biggest problems that I see in youth sports is that one, we think everything is going to be overnight. But then we also we don't understand that there's plenty of time. In the grand scheme of thing, there is plenty of time for your kid to learn, grow, develop, and we're just looking for them to kind of stay in line or in on pace with all of the other kids. And I don't think that that's necessarily fair to them.
yeah. And what is your opinion? I'm going to ask so many questions. Like, I have
Of
a
course, no,
list.
that's why
So
we're
it's
that's what we're here. I'm excited.
tell us what to do because we as parents are lost in this world. Do
Sure.
you, I guess to back it up, to go with what you're saying, what are some of the family dynamics that you see that does affect the kid? And I guess examples, like, do they end up being burnt out that they don't want to play anymore? Do they end up
Yeah.
losing confidence? Do they compare themselves too much to other kids? Like, what are some, when you mentioned that child you were working with that you really found, oh, I'm helping their mental health here more than anything. What are
Yeah.
some of the things you are seeing in kids now that we really need to be aware of as adults in their lives?
Yeah, there's a couple things. So one, I think the biggest thing is that um, statistics say that 70% of kids are going to quit by the age of 14. That
Mm,
alone is a big enough number that we really need to understand. Okay, maybe Jimmy, who's in second grade, doesn't
yep,
need to be on the AAU team just yet.
yeah.
Um, I think that there's room for them to grow, and we have to allow them the room to grow without overdoing it. So
Mhm.
I think that's the first thing. The second thing is that our kids are learning that the sport that they play, or let me rephrase that, the love that we give them is sometimes based on the performance that they give. So many
Mm,
times, and I've spoken to kids. I've spoke to one of the kids that I speak to. Well, they're no longer a kid, but she was in college, and we had a conversation about just the mental health part of it. And one of the things that she said that to me that was really eye opening is that there are certain things that she was afraid, and this is a college athlete, that she was afraid to speak to her parents about in fear of letting them down.
wow.
So when you think about that, a college athlete not wanting to let her parents down, imagine that 8-year old who's thinking that same thing. I just don't want to let my parent down. And that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest weights that they're bearing right now. So we just have to do a better job of understanding what we're doing to make that weight heavier, what we're doing to put more pressure, and what we're doing to just maybe not allow them to uh, grow and develop because now they're just fearful of all of it.
Yep. What is the line? Because I've heard both, this idea of letting them explore more, right? Not getting into sports. We don't want to get them burnt out. And yet
Mhm.
I know that there is a discussion around, okay, we need to teach our kids commitment, right? You finish a
Yeah.
commitment, you try different things, discipline, learning to show up for your teammates, all of those. How do you find a way to balance those two things?
I think one, it's really just a matter of not making it a race.
Mm,
Much of our decisions are driven upon, the idea that we might fall behind. And I think we're getting started way too early in the competitiveness of all
okay.
things. Um, And I think if we really realize that we don't need to start as early as they're starting, and I've heard the argument, well, if they don't start now, then they're not going to have a space on the team. Let me tell you, given the fact that most coaches, this is going to be controversial, but most coaches only care about winning.
Yeah.
If your kid in the 8th grade just tried out for the team and is now this phenomenal player, I can almost guarantee you they're not going to not give them a roster spot because the
Yeah.
12 kids before them have been playing for 10 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea of just allowing them to grow and develop, I think that if I had to go back and do it again, my daughter, I have 3 kids and they all played sports. My daughter was really the one who really took to um, just being a more polished athlete. So we started her playing 3rd, 4th grade. She was playing travel soccer, travel and AAU basketball in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, and we were just going year round.
Yeah.
But had I looked back, or if I were to go back and do it again, I wouldn't have even started her till maybe 5th or 6th grade
Mm,
because the time that we could have used and the money that we could have saved from doing that and then maybe just doing some training, that would have made the world of a difference. And this is someone who, and I'm coming from a position of she's played Division 1, but I still think that she could have been better, even better off. And that even that kind of like hurts me to say, but that's one of the things that I think is we just need to understand that we don't need to start as early as we're starting. There's other ways to help them find passion and
yeah.
joy for the sport without having them to get into the competitiveness of it early.
Yep. And are you finding, because I know so much of this is about mental health.
Hmm.
On the flip side, are you also seeing, I mean, at least I should say I'm seeing it as a physical therapist. more and more injuries in kids that we have not seen before and
Oh,
that we
for
should not
sure.
be seeing, especially in girls, it feels like, with the ACL tears and the Achilles. And I mean, I'm seeing middle school kids with back pain that I'm thinking you should not be having back pain in middle school. Are
Yep.
you seeing more of that as well with the pushing?
Yes, a ton of it. Like, I don't even think that this is not normal. Like, it's
Yeah,
not even normal to see
agreed.
what we're seeing. Actually, I was just speaking to a high school coach the other day who said, 3 of her players are out with back injuries that she's never seen it before.
Mhm.
The ACL tears, like you mentioned, they're out of control. And I think a lot of it, and I believe, I don't even say that I believe. I'm very much certain that a lot of it has to do with the early starts,
Mhm.
and then the push and the nonstop grind of jumping from season to season to season
Yep.
nonstop. There's never a time where the kids just get to break and let their
Mhm.
body recover, which is, it's insane. And I'm hoping that, at least from this conversation, that maybe that it becomes part of the bigger conversation
Yep.
in just they don't have to do as much as they're doing in order
Right.
to get to that next level.
And do you find if kids are at least doing different sports that helps? I mean, do you see a difference between year-round one sport versus, okay, this is an active kid who just wants to do a lot, but we're gonna switch up all the sports. You're gonna swim in the summer and you're gonna do your
Yeah.
basketball during the year, and then let's throw in some, tennis in there somewhere.
Yes. Yes. Now much of that excuse me. Now I know that science will tell us, listen, multi-sport athletes are just better off. So I think one as parents, I wish that we would listen to that more.
Yeah.
But some of my personal experience supports that bias. My daughter
Yeah.
was a multi-sport athlete from young all the way to through her junior year in high school. She played both basketball and soccer. Um, and knock on wood, her playing career is over at this point, but she has not had a major
Wow.
um, injury, which is I'm extremely thankful for that because I'm watching kids, for lack of better terms, drop like flies
Yeah.
as they go through this. So I do believe that multi-sport athletes, and matter of fact, I'm an advocate of that. Kids should be playing multiple
Mhm.
sports, and I'm sure it just works different muscles,
Yeah.
and it helps work different things that kind of prevent those or reduce those risks, not prevent, but reduce those risks. And I think we just need to pay more attention to that.
Yeah. And what would you say, because I know there's gonna be parents, grandparents, and people listening who are
Hmm.
saying, "You know what? This is all great, but it's my kid who wants to play this much." I mean, because I know there's that side too. As parents, we feel a lot of pressure to do the right thing for our children when they're young and get them in the right
Hmm.
place. But I also know there are kids who they are the ones pushing. I wanna be a dancer
Yeah.
my entire, like, that's what I want. Get me to all of these programs. I wanna do this. What do you have any tips for parents who are saying, "I wanna protect my kids. I want, to keep them as healthy as possible, and also they love this so much, I want to stoke that fire as well."
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have to just realize, like, hey, at the end of the day, we're the parents. So
Amen.
just like anything, if our kids were on the iPad too much,
Yeah.
I would hope that we would regulate that a little bit and step in and try to reduce that. The thing is that I think that we can still work on those goals
Mhm.
without the full season to season, team to team, sometimes three teams at a time. I think that there's a way that we can support that goal in a healthy way.
Mm,
And I think it's a matter of sitting down and just having that conversation. Hey, if this is
yeah,
something that you really want to do, let's put together a plan and plan it out versus just deciding to do these things on a whim. I think that there's ways that we can allow or pursue that bigger picture without having to do all of these games.
yeah,
I know kids. Listen, there's 82 games in a NBA game. I know kids that play more than 82 games in 4 months.
that's insane.
So when you think about that, it's like all right, the professionals aren't playing that much, but we're allowing our kids to play that much. And then
Yeah.
at that, they have the next 8 months off, 8 months off.
Mhm.
So I think that it's just a matter of, listen, we can be healthy and support the dream or goal that each kid wants to get to.
I love that answer so much. And now a quick word from our sponsors who help make this show possible. A few things for you to know about us in our home. One, I cook a lot, just about every meal at home, many times on the stovetop. Next, we like to have our kids' friends over, so that's lots of little ones running around the house. Our kids are also in school, which means all of their school germs come home with them. And we live in Colorado, which unfortunately means the past few years have been wildfire season in the summers. So, what do all those things have in common? It means the air quality in our home suffers between smells from cooking, bacteria and viruses from all of our little friends, and the wildfire smoke. The air in our home could actually be making us sick. So, our solution is the Air Doctor Air Purifier. Air Doctor's powerful 3-stage filtration captures extremely small particles. That's about 100 times smaller than what typical air purifiers can remove. It captures airborne contaminants you wouldn't want to be breathing in, such as dust, pollen, mold spores, pet dander, wildfire smoke, bacteria, viruses, odors, and more. It's also whisper quiet. I literally never hear it at all. And it has an auto mode feature, so it ensures optimal air 24/7. And even better, it has change filter reminders. So there's no more guesswork. There is nothing we have to do except turn it on and change the filter when it reminds us. Air Doctor has won Newsweek's Reader's Choice Award for Best Air Purifier, and we are so glad to have it in our own home. You can head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code MEETYOURBODY to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty. That's an $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. That's airdoctorpro.com using promo code MEETYOURBODY. And now back to our show. Are there red flags when you were talking about your daughter actually playing multiple sports?
Mhm.
I know, like I said, our daughter's volleyball. We're just starting to look at what do we do next? What is the next step? Is it just school? Is it rec? Where are we? And I know there are some programs that have said, hey, if she comes to join this program, it's full commitment. We expect commitment every single game, every single practice, and we expect her to quit her other activities.
Mhm.
That to me is a red flag. As a parent, as our values as a family, no, that's a
Yeah.
immediate no. Are there other red flags that parents should see or look out for, either in kind of their kids and how they might be responding to something, coaches, programs, anything that should make them hesitate a little and say, that might not be the healthiest option?
Yeah, I think, when you talk about programs, I think, actually, I don't even think it's a program thing. I think it's just a life thing. When you start to look at, and as parents, we're sometimes guilty of that as well. When you start to look at the kids as products
Mhm.
or accessories, then that is a red flag. Um, and by that, I mean when organizations, programs want to control what your child is doing,
Mm.
how much they're doing, where they're doing it. Um, I have coaches, I have other people and organizations that, will try to, I'm trying to phrase this the correct way, that will try to, say, no, that player can't go over there
Yeah.
to work with that person, or that player can't um, play for this team because, for whatever personal
Yeah.
reasons it is. Those are all red flags to me.
Okay.
By no means should anybody be trying to control or dictate what your child is doing. I think it's okay for them to suggest or recommend Like, hey, just based on what I know about this, that may not be a good idea, but by all means, go try it. And then when it doesn't work out,
Yeah.
know that I know that I told you, and that's kind of the approach that I always took. But so I would say that's a red flag. I would say as far as your kids, when they're not engaged in what they're doing, I
Mm,
think that's a red flag, something that deserves a conversation. If they're complaining every time that they have to go here or complaining every time that they have to go there, that's a conversation that needs to be had. That's a red flag. Um, and then obviously, probably sometimes we just need that reminder. If your child continues to get hurt,
yeah.
mm, that might be a red flag that you might need to make some changes. So I see that a lot too. Is just, hey, we got to tough it out and get through it. But listen, sometimes we just need to sit back and take a chill pill.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love that you keep coming back to us as parents and our responsibility in this
Yeah,
because you're exactly right. We can let the kids dictate it sometimes. Um, and or go back to our previous experiences and how either I want them to have the exact same experience or I want it to be completely opposite. I'm going to make it so much better for them because I had a bad experience.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, that's just life. I mean, constantly I'm telling myself, I can't always protect my kids. I can't keep them from learning the lessons they need to learn. I can't make them live my life.
yeah,
And I am the parent, like you said, it is my job to come in and be as responsible as I can and self aware of my own issues so that I'm not putting and projecting those on them. I mean,
yeah.
that's a lot, but that's our role as a parent.
Absolutely. And you said one thing that I think is really important for parents, that I'm not seeing today. Um, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not seeing it. We have to be willing to allow our children to fail. I think so many times as parents, especially in this youth sports world, we're trying to prevent them from the heartache,
Mhm.
the disappointments, the adversity. Like, we're trying to pull them away from things that ultimately are going to grow their character.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and I've been guilty of that a ton,
Mhm.
even as a parent outside of sports. And I think we just need the opportunity to, let me rephrase that. We need to give them the opportunity to grow. And we don't do enough of that.
Yep. So true. And our job then is to be a safe place for them to land with
Hmm.
those. You don't pull the rug out from under them and say, you're on your own. Good luck with your lessons.
Absolutely.
We are that safe place for them. And I think that's what sports is. I mean, we live in Denver. I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Sunday was very
Oh my
hard
goodness
for
gracious.
us. It's a very hard day for us and our family. And my son was upset afterwards. And I was, tried to, hey, it's one game. We had a great season, bud. We're totally fine. And my husband said, it's okay though for him to feel that way. He's like, I remember
Yeah.
feeling that way as a kid. And this is just a part of these memories as a family. And I said, you know what? You're right. And that's what's when you love a sport, when you love a team, when you're a part of a team, heartbreak is part of it.
Hmm.
Um, and that can be a hard thing, but also we all have lessons within that. And I don't know how to balance it all. I mean, I don't. I want to protect my kids from every single thing in the entire world, and I can't. And
Yeah. No, we
it's a
do. We
decision
do.
every
And I
day.
mean, I think that's natural. I think that's natural for us to want to do that. I think it's just a matter of us really within a safe parameter,
Yeah.
um, just allowing some of that, not so much sports, but I think about when my kids were growing up, I think about this is a conversation I have with myself all the time. There were times where they would go to school and they'd forget their lunch. And then they'd
Yeah.
text dad and say, hey, I forgot my lunch. Can you bring it up? And of course, dad, I got you. I'll bring it up. But in doing that, what I realized is I think I was stripping them the opportunity to be more responsible.
Hmm.
And of course, I've covered this in other areas of their life. But hey, if you don't do this, this is the consequence that comes from it.
Yeah.
And you have to feel that. I
Yeah.
think you have to feel what it feels like to go hungry for that lunch period
Yeah.
in order for you to say, guess what? I'm not going to forget my lunch today. Do you know?
Mhm.
So I think a lot of that as parents, we just have to be willing to allow them that opportunity, give them
Yeah.
the opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
There is I've been really heavy into my faith as of late. and there was a sermon, and they spoke about, a lot of times when we pray for peace,
Yeah.
he doesn't just give us peace. In turn, he'll give us a storm, which in turn gives us the opportunity to see what peace feels like, or go get peace, the opportunity to appreciate the peace. As we're going through it, we may not recognize it, but in order for us to get what we need, we just have to see what we don't want, you know? So I got off on a tangent there, but
No, tangents are perfect. And I really feel sports are that. I mean, they really are kind of a microcosm of life, and they can be
yeah.
absolutely the best of us. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I love about sports, and I love about the Olympics coming up. I mean, it can be the best, bring out the best in us and bring communities together. And also, it can bring out the worst, and we've all seen that too.
Yeah.
And yeah, letting our kids know you're part of a team, there are people to lift you up, and also you have responsibility in this. Like you said, like
Yes.
you're going to learn what your role is, and your role might change. You might be the scorer this time. And I've talked to our son about that because just, young soccer is always, did you score? Everyone who asks, grandparents, everyone afterwards is just, did you
Mhm.
win? Yes. Did you score? And he plays defense. And so I had to talk with him and said, you know what? I don't expect you to say yes. It's okay if you don't score because that's not your role. Like, that's actually not your job. You need to be back here and you do that really well. Um, and just letting them see that really translates into life. And like you said,
Absolutely.
I mean, we can't take away their storms.
Yeah.
We
No,
can't,
I
like,
think as we take a look at, youth sports and what it is now, I think that's the biggest frustrating thing for me is that a lot of what youth sports used to be,
yeah,
you hear uh, our generation speak on the life lessons that they learn from sports. And I think that we're stripping the opportunities for those life lessons um, way too much. And I'm hoping that through the conversations that we're having, we can start to bring some of those life lessons back or introduce them again. Because I think just way too many times they're getting lost
yeah.
and not given the opportunity to present.
And I do think as parents, I mean, and again, any caregiver, any adult listening to this, if you don't have kids, but you go to a friend's game, um, like we have an active role in that. And it's not yelling at the refs, right? The whole time. It's not
Yeah.
yelling at other parents. It's not, there are times I don't want to go to games because I just think that is not what we want to be teaching the kids. I mean, I was at a
Yeah.
game, again, these are 8-year-olds, and I heard the coach had to pull their own parents aside and say, that is not how we act. We don't cheer when the other team goes down. And I thought,
Yeah.
this is what we're having to learn as people in our 30s and 40s, and this is what our kids are hearing. Like, we've got to turn the ship around.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think so much of I'm on a new journey. And in this journey, um, I've decided, as I spoke about earlier, that I am going to take on this Goliath that we call youth sports. And in that process, there's so many things that we have to change. And it's not a parent has to change. It's not a coach has to change. It's not a director change. There's pieces that we all have to change. And is it something that's going to happen overnight? Absolutely not. But is it something that if we can teach one to teach another to teach another, then maybe over time we can start to see some change. And that's kind of what I'm hoping. And part of that change is addressing the conversation that you just spoke about is, did you score? Some of what we are measuring in youth sports has to change. Um, and that's part of the blueprint that I'm hoping to present to everyone.
Yeah. And I would love to hear, I think a lot of parents, like, we're pretty realistic.
Mhm.
Our kids probably aren't going to go play D1 on a full ride scholarship. I mean, the chances are pretty low. And also, a lot of us think, well, maybe they could if I just do enough, or like you said, they have the talent, it's there. And then now with athletes getting paid in college, I mean, there actually is opportunity for kids who may not have had opportunity before to make money for themselves and their families. It's a big convoluted conversation, I know. I would
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts on that, on kids getting paid now in college. Have you seen that change the landscape whatsoever yet? And then
Yeah.
also, what are the chances of kids really going on to play at that level?
So the first thing is that um, one, you're absolutely right. The fact that college kids are getting paid now, it does change the landscape. For the most part, we were parents who, maybe hoped that our kids could go pro so that they could get to the money. Now we're at that point where, all right, maybe if they go to college, they can get the money. So it does change the landscape. It does put a lot of pressure on families and parents and kids. So when you talk about just anything that adds pressure, you're going to change the
Mm,
landscape of. Now, with that being said, I am an advocate for the kids getting paid.
yeah.
So it's tricky, but there's that part. And then there was a second. There's a second part that you asked.
The
Part of that.
chances of kids act just
Ah,
realistically for parents, what are the chances
realistically,
that your kids will go play in college?
so I think the most recent is 1 to 2% can go on to play high level college, which most would understand to be Division 1. 4% can go on to play at a collegiate level. Here's the thing, though, and I, as much as I'm advocating for youth sports to change, I think the chances are way higher than what statistics say.
Hmm.
And here's why. And this is some math that one of my mentors gave to me as well. So if we think about those numbers, let's just take the 1% for example. 1% of high school athletes go on to play college at the college level. I can tell you for a fact that at least half of the kids on most high school teams don't want to play in college anyway. so
That's a
so
great point.
if they're taken into
Yeah.
consideration, that changes the number right off the bat, right? So you have the kids that don't want to play, but then you also have the kids that don't want to work.
Yeah.
So they're not even trying to get themselves better. They just relying on their natural talents. Then you have the next pool of kids that actually want to work and they're
Mhm.
actually doing the work. And I'm not just talking about playing games, but they're eating right, they're resting appropriately, they're going to the gym, they're working on their craft by themselves. That pool has a much higher chance than the
Mhm.
1% that we're giving them. So that's why I say if you really put together a plan, if this is something that your kid wants, not that you want, if this is something that your kid wants, there's a plan that you can put together that allows you to help them get to that goal outside of just going out on a whim.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think the chances are greater.
Yeah.
I think that the money is obviously a pressure that changes everything. But all of it is doable.
Yeah. And it has to be the kid wanting it and staying healthy, like you
That's the
said, and
most
having the
important part.
support
That's the
system
most
at home. Yeah. And gosh, that's such a great point because it is, you can hear that stat and say, you know what, we don't even have a chance. So we don't have to do anything. There's no chance of us to go do that.
Yeah.
But yes, you're exactly right. The pool changes if your vision changes, if you're willing to put in the work to do it, if you're willing to
Mhm.
say, you know what, it doesn't have to be a Duke that I go play at. Maybe it's this D2 school I start at. Yeah, it's really about the love
Yeah.
for doing it. And is this
Mhm.
a lifelong plan so that I can sustain this as a family,
Absolutely.
as an individual? Um, that's such a great way to look at it. You have, and everybody, I'm going to have the link below to Gary's Instagram. It is fantastic. I mean, it's just one of the most positive,
Mm.
helpful places that I can go on Instagram right now as a parent.
Well,
And you
thank you.
recently said, be careful not to compare your child to others. You
Mm.
can't see the sunrise if you're staring at the wrong horizon. And I would love just to hear you expand on that a little bit because I
Sure.
know all of us do it. All of us parents, will stand there and not necessarily just compare our child to someone else's talent, but we compare ourselves as parents. Am I doing enough? Oh, that parent's doing more, and I'm not. They did that program. I guess I should do that program. What camp? I mean, the comparison trap will get us in all parts of life, but
Yeah.
especially if we're comparing our child to someone else's. So I'd love to hear you expand on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I Listen, again, I've been down this road. I've done it. I've compared my kid to other kids. I've compared, I don't know, my friends to other other friends. So I know comparison is something that we do. I get it. But too many times I see kids that I've worked with that are growing in so many ways that the parents just are oblivious to that growth
Mm.
because they're not producing like Jimmy or they're not producing like Jane. So when we're looking at what everybody else is doing, instead of just really focusing on what our child is doing, we're not allowing ourselves to see the growth that they're having. It's kind of like, how many times have you gone, to a friend's house, after many years and they say, wow, Claire's really grown. And you're like, really? I haven't seen her. It's because we're around them all the time. And sometimes it just takes that outside eye to see that. But if we really take the time to focus on the growth, and I think I'll give this point of view that I think will help a lot of parents. You have to look beyond the surface. If you take something like soccer, it's easy to look at, how many goals they scored. If you're a goalie, how many saves they had. But when we really start looking at the details and really drop down those details to like as deep as you can get them,
Mhm.
for basketball, maybe it's their crossover went from this to this, and it looks so much better in an X amount of time. Footwork, or let me be more specific. The way that they are moving their hips has gone from this to this. The way that they have changed their form went from this to this.
Mhm.
So when we start to really dive down into some of the details, and this could go for every sport, there's a ton of great trainers on Instagram that really dive into the details. And if you pay attention to the details that they're talking about, it really gives you a new perspective on the things that can be measured and whether or not they're not whether or not, but how they're helping kids grow. And
Yeah.
if your kid can do some of those things and you're paying attention to those opposed to paying attention to what the other kids are doing, you start to have a newfound joy and a newfound appreciation for what your kid is doing. And then it also eliminates you changing trainers and teams and coaches every 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that stop comparing.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. Stop
That's
comparing.
it. That's the summary. I feel like I wanna hit on one other point. I mean, probably
Sure.
20,000 more points, but one specific one. I would be remiss not to acknowledge that, like, the things we are talking about require accessibility. I mean, youth
Yeah.
sports are expensive if you really, especially once you get into club. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of accessibility issues to families who probably do wanna get involved or want their kids to get involved, and they say, "I don't live in a community that has that. I don't have the money for that." And I know that's a valid concern.
Sure.
Do you either have ideas or thoughts or, I mean, even just saying, "Hey, you don't need that for your kid to be really good." Like, how do you talk through people who are in that situation?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Obviously, there's many families that are being priced out of youth sports. Um, Youth sports is growing year by year. I think
Mhm.
latest status is a $40 billion industry.
Wow.
So I would say that one, we can cut some of those costs by not starting as early
Mm.
as we are. There's no reason that your third grader needs to go to a tournament at Disney World and you live in New York. Um, there's one of the biggest things that I see is that many parents want to jump to a private trainer when there's opportunity to save some money, but then also take advantage of the group training. And that's one thing that I'll touch on real quick because
Yeah.
I see that a lot. There's something that we all do, and this is a big part of what I try to teach parents is it's called our self story. it's the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves that we're constantly looking for evidence to support. If we're an adult and maybe we're going to the gym and I feel like I'm overweight, maybe I am looking and I'm listening to people that are saying things that are supporting exactly what I believe already.
Mhm.
So maybe, I'm going to work and, I've got, I don't know, I'm going to lunch and maybe somebody says a slick comment of, hey, how many burgers are you going to get today? Those kind of things support exactly what I already believe about myself. So what we have to do, or what kids are doing, and we have to give them credit for that, is they're doing that constantly, whether they're on a team or they're in training. And I say that to say this: for the longest time, I was doing private trainings with specific kids, and what I realized is that every time that they would come in, they would go at their pace. They would, do what they thought that they were great at, or they would do a rep and they thought that they were great at, but they weren't really great.
No.
Um, and all of these things were things that they just didn't have the opportunity to change about
Mhm.
themselves. They were already given their self story. So what I
Mm.
found is that when I stopped allowing them to come to those private sessions and I put them in a group session, now they're doing this competitive thing in their head, like, oh, I'm actually better than Jimmy, but now Kevin over here, um, I think I can catch up to him.
Mhm.
So now he kind of sees, or she kind of sees, where she is on this spectrum, and she has an opportunity to collect the evidence that tells her she is growing along the way,
Mm.
right? So when she starts to see that, Kevin or Jim or Jane or whoever did this rep this way, she's
Mhm.
challenged to do it better than them.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of value in that. So to answer your question, I think that as parents, we can save ourselves some time and some money by not necessarily jumping into those private things, because there's value in those group things, which by all means should be less money
Yeah. You would
if
hope so, right?
they're doing if they're doing it right.
Tell us, you mentioned the blueprint.
Yeah.
Tell us all about that.
Sure. So I've come up with this blueprint, which, by all means, I am, like I've said a couple times already, is that I am planning. I want to take or change, or in this case, I want to reform youth sports. So I've built a blueprint. It's called Reform, and Reform is an acronym that stands for revealing the incentives. We're going to expose the myths. We're going to fix the feedback. We're going to optimize the environments. We're going to replace the scoreboards, and we're going to measure what matters. So much of that we've talked about.
Yeah.
In terms of uh, revealing the incentives. What we want to do is we want to show that kids are, what we're rewarding is what the kids are doing. And
Mm.
sometimes we're rewarding the bad things that are
Yeah.
causing the kids to do X, Y, Z, right?
Mhm.
So, for instance, if our incentive is to um, give playing time to the kids that are structured and they're doing exactly what we say, and we're there's no variation in between that. Well, we're teaching kids that, all right, if I don't do anything other than just follow the rules, if I just stay in my place and do what I'm supposed to do, then I can hopefully get that. When in reality, maybe that's not exactly what we want. We don't want robots. We just want kids
Right.
that are doing, growing. So we have to reveal the incentives and how we're going about that from a parent's perspective, a coach's perspective, organization perspective.
Mhm.
Then we want to expose some of the myths that there, like, hey, if we don't do this, we're going to fall behind. If we don't do this, then we're not going to have a spot on the team. And some of those things, some of those thoughts that we have as parents, as coaches, as organizations, we want to rewire those to help understand, like, hey, that's a myth.
Yeah.
Here's the real deal. Here's the truth. We want to fix the feedback. And by that, I mean, we just want to make sure that what we're telling our kids, what we're telling them, what we're telling parents, what we're telling um, the coaches, all of those things and the feedback that we give, they have consequences, the way that we say them, the way that we present them, the way that we're, um, forcefully feeding them to the kids, they all have consequences. So if we can kind of reel that in and
Yeah.
understand the consequences or the um, reactions of our feedback, then we just have to maybe change the feedback that we're giving. Not saying
Right.
that we can't scold them or get on them for, um, you know, not doing things the right way, but maybe it's just a matter of giving them what they did wrong and then
Mhm.
teaching them how to do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know, optimizing the environments just means that we're just trying to change the way that we're practicing, change the way that we're doing games, um, the way that we're supporting, the way that we're um, just all around the environment that we're giving, from games to practices to the whole season. That needs to change and just kind of rewire what our thought processes are on that, and then replace the scoreboards. We talked about it. We it's not necessarily a scoring thing, but we're not looking to take the scoreboard away. By all means, that's part of the sport. But what is actually the win doesn't mean that we've grown.
Yeah.
The success of the win does not mean that we're getting better. And too many times we're looking at those metrics to tell us that
Mhm.
that we're developing. And then the last one is just to measure what matters. And again, going back to the score, we don't need to know how many points you had to measure whether or not you're getting better or not.
Yeah.
We want to measure some of those details, some of the things that, hey, last week when you had a game, you crashed out. This week, when you have a game, guess what? You did crash out, but it wasn't as bad. And then the following week, you didn't crash out at all. So it's like picking different things that we can measure
Mhm.
that tells us whether or not our kids are growing and not
Yeah.
just looking at, whether or not they're winning or
Yeah. Or they're a
scoring or
starter. Yeah.
start. Yeah, though, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Um, Tell everyone how they can find you, how they can learn more, where you are, all of it.
So we just launched our new website, GarryLinton.com, 2 R's. So that's one place where they can always get all the information. Instagram is my number one go to. I'm always there, just trying to get the information out and then answering as many people as I can. I would say those two are the main ones, and then we're other places on social. But if you want
Yeah.
us, you'll find us there.
I know. That's it. We have Google for a reason. But
Yeah.
we will also have all the links below. And I mean, I really feel everything we talked about today applies not only to youth sports, but your kids doing any activities. I mean,
Yeah.
musical theater, really into their studies, all of this can apply.
Yep.
And then it applies to every caregiver out there trying to support any young person or mentor any young person. Like we're the ones that can be the change. And if it's just supporting one young person in your life, then that's the difference that you can make. And I believe
Absolutely.
that wholeheartedly. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you for helping us do that. We need all the help we can get, and I
Of
appreciate you.
course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I had a great time doing this. I think that the questions that you were able to ask allowed the opportunity for parents to learn. So I
Great.
think there's a lot of value that parents and caregivers will get out of this conversation, and I'm hoping that they take heed to some of it, and
Yep.
maybe it starts to change or a snowball effect from them to their kids, and who else it may affect. But I think it's a great conversation that needed to be had, and I appreciate it.
I agree. Thank you. All right. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening today. I would love it if you could take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It means a lot to us and it helps our content get out to more women who need it. You can find more of my resources at my website, jessicavalant.com, or find me on YouTube at Jessica Valant and Instagram at Jessica S. Valant.